It's been a couple weeks now since I moved into the shop, and as you can see, it's a little bit chaotic in here. So let me give you an update on what I've been doing. Also, I'm going to answer a bunch of the questions you guys have had about how this space came to be and what all of this means for the future of the channel and growing this business. Somehow it's been a couple weeks already since I put out a video about moving into the shop, and we're starting to get kind of settled. There's been a lot of behind the scenes, kind of not that exciting stuff, but I figured I'd give you guys an update. Now that the table saw and the miter saw station are in place, I spent some time leveling those and getting everything set up correctly. Now I still want to get the wider rails for the saw stop, so I left a little bit of room to be able to do that when we finally get around to ordering them. But for now, it's set up, it's level, and I can actually use the saw, which is an important feature to have in, a table saw. The miter saw station, exactly the same setup as we had in the garage. I'm just using a shop vac as the dust collector for that. This shop does have a whole room dust collector, but running a pipe to it just seemed like a whole thing. Maybe at some point we'll do that, but at least for now, I'm gonna buy one of those switches. When I turn it on, this shop vac comes on too. The next big step in getting this all set up was wiring in the 3-phase machines. You saw Doug and I wrestle the panel saw, and I moved the edge bander into their places, but the power and dust collection needed to be run to them. A friend of mine who's a union electrician came by one evening. He didn't want to be in the videos, so we didn't film any of it, and frankly, there was a lot to do. Nothing too exciting, but I wanted to make sure that these 3-phase machines were set up correctly. That's far outside of my wheelhouse. I understand basic electrical, such as putting in plugs, and I can do a 220 line if I need to. 3-phase is a whole nother animal, and if you do it wrong, the motors will run backwards because it's 3 different pulses of electricity. I don't really understand how it all works. Some of you probably know a lot better than I do, but I wanted to make sure that a professional got that stuff set up. So we had to pull some of the lines back through the ceiling, rerun them, and make sure that they were all strapped in correctly. And I basically just worked as his assistant for the evening, and we got it all knocked out in one day. The other elephant in the room, there's a ton of lumber now in the shop. About a month ago, my friend Steve, who puts on kind of a local networking group for woodworkers here, he had put together one of his events that we do every couple months or so. It kind of bounces between different shops, so somebody will host it, and it's kind of a pizza, beer, talk shop, hangout kind of event. The last event was at a place called Pittsburgh Urban Tree, which is one of my favorite local woodworking businesses. They do amazing work. They do really big stuff. They've done things for all kinds of different cool companies all over the country. And I've known about them for a long time, but I'd never had the chance to meet them. So I was very excited. I went and got to meet the owner, Jason, and we got to chatting about all sorts of different woodworking and things. And he showed me this amazing collection of slabs that he has. A couple times throughout the evening, he mentioned that he had a bunch more slabs coming. His whole business is he takes urban trees and mills them into reclaimed slabs and then turns those into furniture and pieces locally and throughout the country. So he had mentioned that he had like 200 and some more slabs showing up soon. He didn't really have room to store all of them. A couple of people kind of made some jokes about maybe they could make a deal and maybe he'd run a sale, and he sort of was like, well, if you're here the day that the slab truck shows up, I would be incentivized to not put them in my shop. So after the event, I sent Jason an email and said, hey, if you need help dealing with all those slabs, I would be happy to come down and help. So that turned into 2 extremely long days where Jason and I moved basically every slab he owns. There's probably 300 slabs in there already, and another 250 or so showed up on this truckload, and we had to find a way to store them all. I spent about 20 hours over the course of 2 days chasing him back and forth while he was on a forklift. I was moving the bunks around and helping him make sure that stuff was stacked neatly and safely. Slabs are kind of a weird material to store because none of them are surface jets, so they're a little bit twisted and wobbly, so you have to get a little creative with shims and blocks and stuff to get things stacked up. As a result, Jason offered to make it worth my while to help him, and he just kept putting stuff on a pile for me to take home. I brought some of it home the first day in my pickup truck. Some of these are 12 feet long, and it just felt like too much weight and too long to put into my 6.5 foot F-150, so I decided that I would come back for them. So I told him I'd find a trailer or a truck or something and come back and pick those up another time. And it worked out perfectly that the next day I was able to come was the day the slab truck was showing up. So another extremely long day, but I took a U-Haul truck down there and we loaded it up with slabs. Jason just kept finding all the rejects and things that were kind of a one-off or things that their business doesn't really use, and said, man, this would look great in the back of your U-Haul. And so we loaded it up, and my back is still sore, and I'm sure Jason's also pretty beat up, but it was a successful day. So in between the 2 days of me being there, after that first batch of slabs made it back here, I decided that it was important to start organizing this lumber, because as big as this shop is, I can't just have stuff all over the floor forever. We've got lots of other equipment that's going to be in this space, and frankly, the stuff just can't be all over the floor. So I wanted to build some sort of lumber storage. I also have a small amount of other dimensional lumber and sheet goods that needed a home, and I decided that I was going to build some kind of a lumber storage. Now for the slabs, I think I'm going to need to weld some sort of metal fork kind of thing that goes against the wall so I can lean them up and see them on edge and sort of organize things that way. But for the smaller materials, I was gonna go spend some money on plywood, but I realized very quickly it was gonna be $200 or $300 in plywood just to make a little cubby thing that was just gonna hold a bunch of scraps. I realized that outside the building here, there's a bunch of old pallets, and it was better off that I just try to make something out of the scraps that we have and save myself a couple $100. So I took a couple pallets and some old 4x4s that I had laying around, and I managed to make this little 2-layered storage compartment with a divider in the middle, so I can lay some stuff on the bottom, and top can be kind of a flat surface for stuff either coming or going, or just some other smaller chunks of wood. Another thing that I did was I wasted an entire day thinking that I could fix the echo in here. I'm sure that the sound is still super not great, and it's something that I'm trying to work on. And I had this genius idea that maybe I could get some old area rugs and put them in the shop, and that would help. My friend Craig from the Barefoot Forge said, hey, I actually have a couple that used to live in the blacksmith shop. If you want them, they're yours. And I said, perfect, they're already gonna be old and disgusting, but they should help with the sound. So I ran up across town to his shop and grabbed them. It was great to see him and hang out. And then I realized that these things are basically magnetic from how much metal dust is in them because they were in a metal shop. So I wasted an entire afternoon pressure washing these rugs and getting them at least not totally disgusting before I brought them into the shop. Then they had to dry in my driveway for a couple days, and then it rained, and it was a whole project just to find out that, frankly, they don't really do anything for the sound in here. I'm going to need to either put wood paneling on the walls or buy some sound dampening material, build some flag holders that have soundproofing in them. I'm not sure. If you have ideas, I'm open to suggestions. I'm just trying not to spend a ton of money doing it. So there's been a lot of questions about how all of this came to be, and I didn't really explain it super well, and I feel like I owe you guys a little bit more of an explanation. So I'm going to answer some of your questions here, and hopefully this will explain. A lot of people are asking, did I win the lottery? How did I acquire this shop? How am I affording it? All of those kinds of questions. And well, the truth of the matter is that a lot of hard work has finally paid off, mixed with a little bit of luck. After I left my old job and decided to go full time on this, none of this was ever really the plan. I was expecting that I would just grind it out in the one-car garage and buy a couple more tools as I had some money, and we would just figure it out the hard way. Just keep pushing the rock up the hill every single day. Eventually something good would happen. I figured 5 or 10 years from now, maybe I would have something like this, or we would buy some property and I'd build a shop there. But by luck, some people that I know that are actually the owners of this building caught wind of what I was doing. I ran into them at a little grad party that we went to, and they asked what I was up to. And when I told them that I was going to be doing this full time, they happened to mention that they owned this building and that they used to have a business partner running a wood shop out of this space. There was a company doing kind of casework cabinetry, from what I understand. I don't know the full backstory on how all of that was, but basically that's why there's a panel saw and an edge bander in this building and this massive dust collection system, and they had that giant table saw, because primarily what they were doing was making melamine cabinets and things of that nature for commercial, like hospitals and schools, that kind of thing. From what I understand, that business didn't really ever take off, and they invested the time and money into this space, and it just kind of fell dormant for the last couple of years. So when they heard that I was trying to make a run at becoming a full-time woodworker, YouTuber, whatever the hell you want to call this thing, They said, well, actually, we have a space that might be perfect. If you're looking for a business partner or want to collaborate on something, let's talk about it. And so I came and checked out the space, and it couldn't have been more perfect. It's really close to my house. It has everything that I need as far as the space and infrastructure to run things. It has 3-phase power. It has the dust collector. All of that stuff is really checking a lot of the boxes. So after a bunch of discussion and figuring out how it made sense, we came to the agreement that I didn't really want to be in a position to just have a landlord, but if it was more of a partnership kind of thing and I could use some of their resources from the other businesses they run to help grow this thing, that could be interesting. So they really liked what I was doing after checking out some of the channel and just knowing kind of what I've been up to, that they were willing to invest in the form of letting me use this space, as well as there's going to be some capital investment to buy more tools. Now, I don't want to say this without making sure that it's clear that I am extremely grateful for the opportunity, but also that I've worked really, really hard to be here. This may seem like it's kind of an overnight thing, and in a lot of ways it is, but every overnight success has 10 years of hard work behind it. I've worked for a bunch of different shops. I worked for John for a long time, figuring out how to do all this. So even though my channel is fairly young and the business is just getting off the ground, this is built on the shoulders of a bunch of other things. At the end of the day, it came down to they were able to have the resources to kind of jumpstart things, and instead of spending tens of thousands of dollars to fumble our way through it and waste that money in mistakes and loss of time and being inefficient, we can invest in being efficient and get to a point of making high quality work quicker. So that brings to the question of a lot of people have been asking, well, what is the intent? Is this a YouTube studio? Are you building a furniture business? And the answer is I don't really know, but it's probably somewhere in the middle. The intent is to still bring you guys along, and I love making these videos, and I love the little community that we've built, and especially like the smaller community that we have over on the Discord channel. It's so much fun talking to you guys about the projects you're working on and hanging out. I've been a fan of the maker community well before I ever made videos or made content about it, and so a lot of these people have become friends, and that is a big part of what I'm doing. Hopefully, as we grow, we can start to partner with brands and do lots of other cool projects here. But also we're gonna just make commissioned furniture pieces. What the furniture pieces look like at this point, I still don't know. A lot of that is just an organic thing where you take a job because someone needs something made, you make it and other people see it. If you make a lot of built-ins and that's what you're sharing, then people call you for built-ins because that's what they've seen. Or if you make live edge tables, that's also the same kind of thing as you become the live edge table guy, and then you make a lot of those. So we will see where this all goes. Live edge tables is definitely part of this. I have all these slabs now from my buddy Jason that we're gonna have to turn some of these into tables. I have the material to do a 10-foot long cherry live edge slab table that would make an amazing dining table or conference table, as well as a bunch of good material for bar tops and coffee tables. Some people locally were asking, how do I get one of your pieces? And the answer is, if you have a project that you want to do, feel free to email me and we can try to figure out when and how and what and all of that as we get the shop built. What will be the next big tool purchase? So as I mentioned, part of this business partnership is that I am going to end up with some capital to buy more tools so we can kind of expedite the process of growing this into a real functioning shop. Part of this growing and building a business is that we have to actually make things and make a profit now. This isn't just like a hobby in the garage. This has to work. So part of making real furniture and running a real business is outfitting a proper shop. A lot of people are asking if this is going to be like a real shop or just a YouTube thing. And the goal is to make a real shop that can make real furniture and sell those things to people. I also have a lead on a guy in my area that is looking to sell basically his entire woodworking shop. It's a home shop in a 2-car garage that this guy has done very well for himself, and this was a hobby of his. But now that he's getting older, it sounds like he's potentially wanting to downsize. We could potentially write a check to this guy and basically buy all the other things that I need. We will see. It's not done deal yet, but I'm hopeful that that would be a good way to get a planer and a joiner and a couple of the other bigger things. And he has a lot of like lumber and accessories and other things that if we can do a package deal would just be a great way to kind of go from almost nothing to basically a fully outfitted shop, and we could start working and making money right away. Are you hiring? Frankly, can't afford at this point to pay anyone. This is not really making enough money to pay my own bills. So at this point, I can't promise anything to anyone. While I don't have the intent of hiring people and making this into like a shop with people and managers and all kinds of things, I do recognize the fact that to grow this and to make it profitable enough for everyone to get their share, that it may involve hiring people. I don't know if that means hiring shop hands or editors or what that looks like, but the reality of it is, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So definitely possible that at some point more people will be involved. A lot of people have been asking about John and Jordan and if they're going to come by. Jordan actually did text me the other day. He has a project that he was thinking about working on, so we're going to try to figure out a way to get him down here. Also, if I get a CNC machine, the CNC cowboy is going to have to come teach me how to use it, so I would definitely expect Jordan to come by. I'll try to get John down here, but he's extremely busy. He's got a gaggle of small children in his life now that I'm sure he's got no free time. So for him to come across town is kind of a big ask, but I'm sure we can make it work someday. The other thing that I wanted to touch on real quick is that I definitely want to get back into going to the events. It's been a few years since I've got to go to some of the maker, woodworker, YouTuber kind of community events that are happening. So I'm excited to say that I will be going to the Making It Podcast 500th episode, September 6th in Boston, Massachusetts. The Making It Podcast is having episode 500. I'm sure a lot of you guys already listened to that, but they're doing a free live recording of the podcast. There are also going to be other guests like Paul Jackman and some other cool people that I don't think they fully announced yet what all will be going on, but I'm going to be there. So if you're planning on going, make sure you say what's up. And also Maker Camp. I haven't fully committed to it, but I really want to go to Maker Camp. I've been saying I want to go for the last, I don't know how many years they've been putting it on now, but a bunch of the people that put that together are friends of mine, so I really have no excuse but to go. And I kind of have a project idea to do a camper build in order to get myself up there and have somewhere to stay for the week or the weekend or however long it is. So more to come on that, but let me know, Maker Camp, if you've been, is it worth going? Should I go? That's going to be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you guys on the next one.